Hello, ladies and gents. Welcome back to Chaos TV's live coverage of the EUWChallenger Series number 13. It is day 3, best of 3, 2, semi-finals 2, and also a game 2. So all the 2s today. It's going to be MeetYourMakers facing up against Gbots once again. If you have just joined us, first game went very comfortably in the end to MeetYourMakers, but they allowed Charu to get Ari. Again, however, Ari has not been banned out here. From the side of Gbots, they have first pick. Maybe they're going to go for her. Regardless, the bans are Shen, Zed, Elise, Thresh, Kennen, and Jarvan the 4th. I'm Metis, and I'm joined by the ever-dazzling, that's right, I said dazzling, Paul Steele with it. I'm joined by Pulse.
Alec just draws up connotations of Tarek, which I don't completely disagree with. I am Tarek. I look exactly like him, and
You're
it's
fabulous.
I know, it's kind of relevant with the pool party skins that have just come out, so I'm actually surprised they haven't released the Tarek one, honestly. But anyway, back onto the game and things that are relevant. We have Gbots versus MYM. The bans out will be Kennen, obviously against Jims, because he is an avid player of Kennen. We saw this yesterday, and he absolutely wrecked house. And the rest of the bans, some are targeted, some are kind of blanket, but most of them, in any scenario you could say, those bans, I could see them against pretty much any team.
Yes, very much the case. As you say, Kennen is a hard ban against Jims, so we just don't want you to have Kennen. And we saw why yesterday, Pulse. He crushed faces. I believe he finished on 8-1 as AD carry Kennen at the bot lane, of course. So definitely a smart ban there. Thresh is a no-brainer. Libic loves to play Thresh, but you can see that they certainly respect it as a champion, not to want to play against it. Charu locks in Caitlyn, which will be, I'm assuming, for Makla, and Makate once again is going to be going for the Aatrox.
Okay, so Aatrox is very, very good in the jungle, also very strong in the top lane. Probably we will expect to see it in the jungle because Makata was so unbelievably good with him. And the benefits of having it in the jungle is you can be even more aggressive in ganks. It's the same sort of principle as Zac, because when you have Zac, you have the passive. So if you go for a very early tower dive, then that's fine because you have the ability just to keep on trucking. So we can definitely see that. In the top lane, of course, there are other added benefits, but I'm most likely expecting to see this in the jungle. So I'm probably going to see Makla on that Caitlyn, and we didn't have a Corki ban out, so I guess they're looking for a change of pace.
That's true, or maybe it's a case that they're thinking, okay, we don't have first pick, and we don't want to play against Thresh. We feel that Thresh and Corki is a top-tier duo bot lane right now, and therefore, if we can't have Thresh, we don't really want to play Corki. I think that may also be their mentality going into this one, Pulse, plus the fact that Makla plays a very strong Caitlyn, so it does make a lot of sense in that aspect. Again, Eco is not been deterred from game number 1. He's going to be playing Vi jungle once again, and this time, Jims is playing his most picked champion in solo queue. It's going to be the Ashe.
If anyone just picks Vi in, like, no matter what the situation is, I will fanboy them forever. So I'm going to be adding Eco after this game. And it's always nice to see. Vi can fit in so many situations because you can almost never get away from her. And because you can't shut her down when she assault and batteries towards someone, you can't really gap close away because that makes it worse. So in any situation, she's generally good. And you can always put her out of position though, and that's one of the deficits of, detrimental parts of Vi. So there are counterplays, but again, there are also ways to play around that. And now seeing the Ashe come out, again, we saw this from Jims, another staple champion of his. Very strong, it gives them even more engage, and it gives them another avenue of engage that might not have been seen previously. Meanwhile, Rumble picked up, Sona picked up. Area denial from Rumble, and also heavy AoE and big lockdown abilities from Sona.
That's true, and Equalizer on top of Crescendo equals death, pretty much for anybody, especially when you're against an AD carry who has no natural escape apart from the flash. If Ashe has flash down and both land on top of her, it's going to be spending so much energy and focus on just getting the hell away from that AoE. There's not going to be able to do any damage attack, auto attack wise, and probably going to fall as a result. So I really like those pickups. I think the synergy between Rumble and Sona is so high. And actually Sona, I've said this before when Jarvan the 4th is picked, Sona does very well with any kind of AoE, whether it's damage or CC, because you can lock them down. It gives that heat-seeking property to it. And the last pick actually for MeetYourMakers is going to be Fizz. I cannot wait to see how Charu plays Fizz.
Yeah, there are some very legendary Fizz players out there, and I would like to see Charu fit his name among the greats. So we'll see how he does. He's against Gragas, who arguably is pretty good against Fizz, because he has so much sustain. He is innately very tanky. So against Fizz, he does have a lot of counterplay. And once again, Gbots running with the Gragas, which we did see the other day. They actually had Malphite along with the Gragas, and we saw where Gragas would use his explosive cask, split them up, and then Malphite would miss, because he'd displaced everyone. So we don't have this game, and we have so much initiate and so much displacement from Gbots. I'm going to need to take some time to think about it, but initially, I could see it working out very well.
Yeah, and I'm actually quite curious to see how Lee Sin's going to be played by Dragon, because Dragon has played thus far. We've seen him playing Shyvana at top, Renekton at top, and now Lee Sin. Now, Lee Sin, I'm not sure if you'd agree with this, Pulse, but is a very different kind of champion to the other two, the aforementioned Shyvana and also Renekton, because Lee Sin is a high mobile kind of champion. You want the insect mechanics that we saw from Q yesterday. Don't know how that's going to pay out for them. Regardless, though, 2 minutes 30 on the delay timer. As you know, if you are an active Chaos TV stream watcher, we're going to cut to a very quick commercial break. And when we rejoin us, will be live for what could potentially be the last game of the day between MeetYourMakers and Gbot. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you right after this break.
Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to EUWChallenger Series number 13, day 3 of the semi-finals, with the second best of 3, with both MYM and Gbots. First game went heavily in favour of MYM after a long slugfest of around 40 minutes. So we do have Gbot potentially able to, at any point in time, come back into the game, but it was such a huge goal deficit that they just could not come back from. I'm Pulse, at Impulsible, and I'm joined by Metas, at Metas TV.
Hey Pulse, hey viewers, very smooth by the way, I like it. Regardless though, as you say, into game number 2 here, and Gbot simply have to win, Pulse. This is best of 3 format, they're currently 1-0 down. This is make or break, sink or swim for Gbot. Any big mistakes losing this game, they're out of the tournament. It is that simple, and the winner of this game, remember Pulse, will be facing Copenhagen Wolves in the grand finale tomorrow, which will be a best of 5.
And something to mention about that matchup of MYM versus Copenhagen Wolves, if it does go ahead, that's potentially what we could see in the relegation match of MYM. Because Copenhagen Wolves, if they win that in the best of 5, then they will be knocked out of LCS. So that's kind of like a preview of how that next match will go. So I feel like a lot of people will be interested in that one.
Definitely. There's so much more than just a game there. It's somewhat of a rivalry, isn't it? It's almost like history is going to be going down. And here comes Rumble from the side. Kubon trying to steal this one away with the Electro Harpoons. Not going to be happening. Instead, just irritating Eco more than anything else. In the meanwhile, Aatrox has just picked up the blue buff for himself. So, standard openings. However, the result is anything but standard. Charu's going to go bot lane against Gragas, leaving both the duo lanes to go in mid.
Yeah, swapping up and making sure that they still maintain the matchups, because they don't necessarily want Ashe versus Zyra. It doesn't go too badly, purely because Ashe has 600 range versus 650. So there's Zatna's also volley, which is kind of odd in its mechanics, but very good at staying back and kind of denial in terms of keeping Caitlyn away from him. Livix taking some hits, meanwhile in the mid lane. And we'll see how this matchup goes, but in the bot lane, Fizz and Gragas opens up some more counterplay for both Gragas and Fizz, because they can have the usage of the brush as Neptuno jumps in, Ignite comes down, and the barrel. Another flash comes out, he looks for the auto attack, jump out by Charu. Will it be enough? The answer is a resounding no, with the health pot coming in.
Yeah, both flashes were burnt in the process, however. Neptuno went very aggressive and instantly Charu reacting, and we've mentioned this before, that a lot of Fizz players will opt for Barrier and the Ignite. Flash definitely coming to the rescue of Charu in that predicament. So bot lane is going to be a 1v1 for now. That being said, Eco has just joined the ranks here. I don't feel there's a potential kill on the cards because Charu is just chugging through those pots and the crystalline flask. So by the time that Eco got down here was nearly back to full HP. There's not a great deal of tower diving potential against the Fizz that can just play full trickster away, especially when you add a Makate. So maybe this is a case of just trying to counter gank in. Here comes a Vault Breaker from the side. Lots of burst damage being done. Neptuno goes flying into the air. That's going to be first kill. Can they go one better, however? Makate's going to be popped into Bloodwell anytime now, getting a lot of lifesteal off with the W coming in there. Here comes the Dark Flight from the side and the Flash as well for the second time in this best of 3 coming good, but still the counter gank working very, very well.
I need to check if Eco didn't have his Vault Breaker. I feel like he was probably hanging on to it, but his best play there was to try and interrupt him while he was using Dark Flight, aggressing onto him. He didn't have the turret aggro though, and it could have been very dicey had he auto attacked and the red buff been timing out, and chooses better of it for the re-engagement. Very close, very down to the wire, but there was lots of mind games in that, but I think Eco's best play would have been to try and interrupt the Dark Flight.
Another point to make, Pulse. We were so carried away with the bot stuff going on. Kubon actually got a kill at top against Dragon. That was a 1 versus 1 that he picked up. So 2-1 overall, globally. And now Kubon has got a 2-level advantage and quite a lot of power advantage as well. So Dragon's going to have to play this one very, very precautiously.
Yeah, and the other thing is, in the top lane, Lee Sin is a very all-in pick. Top lane Lee Sin specifically, because you don't have the great mobility, yes, you'll still have, I guess, the utility that Lee Sin brings into the mid and late game, but you expect him to do damage as well, and Lee Sin innately as a character scales up. He'll be able to win the laning phase, but apart from that, he'll need something else. Lands the Q onto Kubon, doesn't choose to follow up though. And one of the very difficult things about Lee is if you don't win the laning phase, he scales off even harder than if he's just in the jungle, because you need that solo lane to be outputting damage.
That's a very, very good point, and this is one of the main concerns that I had for Dragon going into this one, because Renekton, even if he gets quite even in lane, is still going to be a threat going into mid game, but Lee Sin will fall off. Plus, I've not really seen Dragon playing a character like Lee Sin prior to this in the EUWChallenger series. Vi's hanging around the mid lane, finishing off the Wraiths, and here comes Makate at the top. Dragon instantly pushing himself back, just wants the last hit with the resonating strikes, firing the Qs in there. So trying to put down some harassment. Here comes the Equalizer, getting rid of this creep wave. They're really trying to be aggressive at top lane though, Pulse.
Looks like they want the tower more than anything. Makata actually backs on off. I guess he was just using Makata as a way to allow him to get back, so meaning that it punishes Lee Sin even more by pushing the minions into his tower. But currently a 10 CS differential could be much worse. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, Charu takes some more hits as he slows Neptuno as he's moving away from the turret. But unbeknownst to him, we do have Vi coming from the backside with both ignites coming out. He is charging up the Vault Breaker. Flash! While it's charged, he picks up the kill. Very smooth.
That is beautiful Vi mechanics. And out of nowhere, Fizz gets taken 6 foot under. I don't think Charo was expecting that at all. Neptuno flashing up as he takes a shot from the tower. They're now going to be pushing this lane with the CS, and Gragas will be recalling. So again, you must be licking your lips with anticipation at how Eco is playing Vi, because that was phenomenally good mechanical play.
Yeah, doing more than that. But in the mid lane, we have Sona, who actually interrupted the recall from Jims, and it was actually very clever because Jims was using one of those crevices in the map where you can't actually see them unless you go all the way around the corner. And Sona read that and moved past the crevice and actually saw Jims and interrupt the recall. So that's why he's on very low HP and mana. And that's really going to hurt Ashe, because yes, he has a lot of gold to play with, but unless she can actually utilize it, then Caitlyn, will have a huge advantage in the next couple of minutes, and she can't afford to go back.
Yeah, that is true. So let's see how this one pans out. Vi is going towards top, however. It's going to stand on top of a ward, so Dragon knows exactly what the deal is. And Vi almost instantly deciding to change her mind as soon as she got towards the top. So now kind of in this toing or throwing motion, going to Vault Breaker through the Baron Pit, I should say. And I'm just hiding off, chilling in this tri-bush area. Not a great deal happening, Pulse. And with the solo kind of duel to the death, the bot lane in fact holds the thought, because here comes the Equalizer and the Assault and Battery. The kick away, actually, the Dragon's Rage. Absolutely a misplay coming in from Dragon, saving the life of Kubon, who's then ignited, hit with the Electro Harpoon, says thank you very much for that free kill.
Oh, he messed up the execute combo, and because he popped Scrap Shield at the exact time, literally as soon as it came up. But now Equinaze are lucky to pick up this kill. Duke's out of the way with Scrap Shield, though. The extra movement speed was not something he took into account. And again, Kubon is still alive and kicking. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, Chari aggresses onto Neptuno. The big ultimates come down into the ultimate of Chum the Waters. Jumps away with Urchin Strike, looks for the CS and thinks better of it. Neptuno just popping down the Drunken Rage. It doesn't result in a kill, but 2 big ultimates are down. Meanwhile, NYM look to sneak the Dragon.
Yes, they do, and still, I'm kind of speechless. At first, I thought that was a misplay, but you know, in hindsight, Pulse, that was just phenomenal play from Kubon. As you said, getting that Scrap Shield up just in the nick of time, saved his life and set up that kill. Such good play from him.
I feel like, actually, meanwhile the bot lane barrel roll comes out, but Neptuno doesn't have the ignite to finish him off. I feel like he was probably looking at the numbers. He'd had it clicked on the champion and looked at exactly the amount of HP he had and exactly how much damage his ultimate did, and then used it at the very instant as soon as it hit that threshold. And then the Scrap Shield was not something he took into account. So I agree with you, Messes. I feel it was down to Kubon's complete mechanical skill and knowledge of exactly when to use it. It was more a prediction play than a misplay.
And it's no over-exaggeration to say that was a matter of milliseconds. That was a matter of hit points. 5 or 6 at most was the difference between Kubon going down and Lee Sin surviving and the complete reversal of what we actually saw come to fruition. So, just massive plays, and that in a nutshell is what we like to see in the Challenger Pulse. The EUWChallenger series is all about these big plays. Kubon firing off the Equalizer once again to clear up the creep wave, trying to stop this onslaught from Dragon. And meanwhile at bot lane, Neptuno trying to do the complete reverse, trying to push down Charu's tower.
It's kind of an interesting point, because Rumble doesn't necessarily need Equalizer to trade off with Lee, because he doesn't want to trade off with Lee all the time. Because Lee will be able to get out of the equalizer very easily with either a ward jump or his just general mobility, there's no real point in using it for the trade because it would just almost be wasted. Therefore, he can use it to clear the wave and be a lot easier to do that. But in the bot lane, another trade comes out with Cut the Waters and the explosive catch. Charu backing off, flashes out of the body slam though, and the Urchin's right for the dukes. Charu's got the moves. He moves into the brush. He looks for the duke. The ward comes out, and Neptuno finishes him off with the body slam.
Never before have I wanted someone to escape so bad, Pulse. That was so good. Ash Arrow coming in around mid though. They are going to be jumping very aggressive with the Makler. Here's the Strangleforce and the Assault and Battery as well. Dragon from the backside, Dark Flight and Flash again from Makata. His patented escape mechanism can't be good once again, but still, Charu's attempt, let's say, at that escape at bot lane was so good. Flashing through the body slam, Urchin striking away from the next barrel. So close, yet so far.
Oh man, the Duke shoes, they were strong in this one. So now one kill has gone down in the mid lane, and actually we have the advantage to Gbots, and I don't think anyone really expected that. They thought it might be another whitewash, but MYM actually suffering at the moment. Top lane's going very well for Rumble, but in the bot lane, Charu not having a good time of 0 and 3. Middle tower looks like it's gonna fall. MVP caster minion actually picks that one up. And right now, it looks like Gbots are in a very dominating position. 2 towers over MYM, and also the extra kills. So we'll see what they can bring to the table in the next couple minutes. I have to feel that they do have to kind of capitalize on this, but they do have Ash. They have very good scaling.
They do indeed, and I think a lot of this can be placed firmly in the back pocket of Eco, who's just done such a good job of being omnipresent across the map. Just being there in each lane, making plays. We just saw they were in mid getting a kill. We've seen a bot lane definitely giving Neptuno's Gragas a big advantage over Fizz, and has also occupied the top lane as well. So really has been all over the map, making plays here, there and everywhere. Makler, however, is trying to push this tower. Needs to be careful, because aforementioned Vi is prowling, predatorial like, looking for more scraps to feed off.
Yeah, and right now, I think the ball is really in Gbots' court, in the sense that they need to make something happen, because Lee Sin is 0 and 2 right now. This is not the ideal situation. Honestly, had I seen this scenario and seen the top laner be someone like Jax, or someone who has better scaling, I'd say Gbots have a very, very good chance to win this, but because they have Lee Sin top, they've kind of hamstrung themselves, because Dragon isn't doing exceptionally well. Mokata looking for the gank in top lane. I think Dragon realizes what's up, it's actually going to go ahead and recall, wasting some of that time with Aatrox. As soon as he realizes, he'll push out the wave, just so they can do some damage to that turret, maybe even pick it up. So I feel that Gbots are slightly hamstrung in their picks.
They are. I'm still scratching my head at the Lee Sin pick. I mean, we in hindsight, if you know Dragon was 3 and 0 at this point, we'd be like, oh, what a brilliant pick. It just hasn't really worked out for him. And as you called before, if Lee Sin goes back, they are going to try and push this tower down very quickly. Dragon's up in 1 minute and 15 seconds. Gragas is going ham at the bot lane with Vi. They do pick up another kill in retaliation for that top tower falling down. But still, looking pretty good right now from Gbot.
Yeah, that was one of those times where there is counterplay. Meanwhile, on the top lane, Execution combo comes out from Dragon. Mokata pops into Bloodwell. Meanwhile, Flame Spitter chunks Dragon down. He does, however, have the Head Shrinker and the perfect usage of Aatrox's Blaze of Torment. Meanwhile, Kuban picks up the kill using the Electro Harpoons. Now in the bot lane, a tower's picked up. And now Levick on the point of contention. Ash Arrow comes across, looking for Neptuno's ultimate to come in. Doesn't even need it. Actually uses it for the finish. And picks up another kill in the mid lane. Now at the top lane, Rubble looking to put some hurt onto this turret. But Gbots are all over this game.
Well, this is a bit strange. I mean, the play that Dragon made there, I can only assume that he thought Mokata's Bloodwell was on cooldown and would not be available. Lots of damage being put down in mid, because he went full all in there, Pulse, to pick up the kill, and in doing so only burnt the passive and then died himself. So I can only assume maybe a bit of lack of communication. Maybe Dragon misunderstood the situation and ended up giving his life away for free. Regardless though, Charu was such an influential part of game number 1, has been well and truly shut down here. 63 CS Pulse, 0 and 4 with just a Sheen in his back pocket. That is a sad fish right now.
Indeed, and in the bot lane, taking both of those two turrets. So, Dragon is now up, the point of contention for both of these teams. We'll see what they can do. Ash Arrow is not up. MYM already looking to try and contest. There's one. Charu finds himself Gemsnow, and Dragon is there to body block the ace from the hole. Jumping across, and now the Stranglethorns comes out. It locks up Kubot, it locks up Mokata, and now Makla looking for the kill. Picks up another. Now Crescendo comes across onto Tremnek. That's on off. Does have the slow, however, but no one really to back up Libic. And now Gragas in the bot lane. 1 for 2 trade. We'll see what damage he can do.
Yeah, well, they are looking to go for this Drake. MeetYourMakers do have the upper hand in terms of players on the battlefield. Gragas just trying to skirt around the edges. Here's Eco from the side. Gragas' ultimate is going down, just trying to delay this Dragon, trying to buy some time for the rest of his team to get in towards the same position. The Equalizer comes down now from MeetYourMakers. Now going to be going in towards Drake. This should be picked up right now. It is going to be Aatrox taking that one down. Ignite from will go on to Makata actually. He falls to Neptuno. So yes, it's a Drake, but it will be for a kill. Now Neptuno is going back in again. I'm not too sure about this play. Needs to be careful actually. He is being surrounded. Big Barrel comes in. Going to be drinking as well. Neptuno firing away with the flash and the body slam, and should be able to get back to the sanctuary of his own blue buff area. Going to be body slamming through again. And at the end of the day, that will be a Drake for a kill.
Yep, and as we've... Well, I believe it was Sushi who said that Gragas... I can't remember the exact quote, but he is essentially very fluid-like. He's like a jelly. He can fit through those trees, as we were discussing how he actually gets through the map. But right now, Gbots still in a good position. Yes, they lost to Drake, but go in return. At least they have that centralized gold. Now, another red buff will be picked up by Ash. We'll see what they can do with that. About 2k ahead and 3 towers as well, more importantly. So they should be able to put down those aggressive walls. This is their next play, so they can get those picks. They see Charu in the top lane, but reaction coming in from almost the entire lineup of MYM. This could go bad very quickly. Charu takes some hits. More damage comes out. The execution combo isn't enough. And now Chum the Waters lands onto Gems. Don't have the follow-up just as of yet. Crescendo was off cooldown. Actually goes in with the initiate. Tremnik from the side. Doesn't quite pick up the kill as of yet, but Dragon has dropped. Now Mokata, he's moving out of the way of Stranglethorns. He also gets picked up in return. Dragon, in fact, Rumble, sorry, falls in the process. Tremnik and Ace comes across, picks up the kill, and they're really looking to donate that one, I feel. And that was a 3-1 trade, massively in the favor of MYM.
Yeah, I'm kind of shell-shocked here from what Gbots doing, because they had such a lead early on in this game, and they are starting to throw it away. Neptuno's having a phenomenal game, was thinking about going all in on Libic, but realizing it was a bit too far away, will back off instead. Regardless though, Gbot need to stop doing this. They need to just get their heads together and think, okay, let's play concise, let's play as a unit, as a well-oiled machine, as we were doing for the first 15 minutes. Because even though Charu had a terrible early game, mainly because of Eco's ganks and constant presence at bot lane, he will begin to catch up. Yes, he's got a Sheen and a Seeker's Arm Guard, but if you allow him to get farmed for the next 5-10 minutes, the first 15 will not make any difference at all.
Gbots are focusing way too much on picks. They're not focusing on objectives. They need to be taking up more towers. Yes, they picked up 4, but you have to feel that was after getting picks. They don't feel confident in their own ability to siege towers, and that's understandable. They have Ashe against someone like Caitlyn, and also great wave clear. So they're thinking to themselves, okay, well, we need a pick first. Not necessarily the case if you can outmaneuver the team of MYM. They were looking for the pick and then the top tower, but honestly, they just they should have sieged it from the offset. They're looking too much after kills. Now if they group up, go as 5 instead of looking for skirmishes, they'll be in much better shape.
They need to realise how strong Gragas is at this stage of the game. 3 levels up on Charu, has a needlessly large rod and Athene's Unholy Grail, sub 20 minutes. That's serious damage. Look at the damage he's putting out on Makla. That's 1 barrel roll and also explosive cask, and suddenly Makla has a quarter of his hit points remaining. So you need to start utilizing the fact that Neptuno has been having such a good game and has such a big impact and advantage over Fizz. In fact, that's exactly what they're doing. They're allowing Neptuno just to split push, trying to pick up this tower, and in turn not allowing Aatrox to pick up the free kill. Oh, that's so disappointing from Neptuno's perspective. 10 hit points remaining, he will just finish that one off.
Yeah, there we go. And now in the bot lane though, actually Dragon potentially finds himself caught by huge Dragon Rage though. And now Kuban follows up. He's got the juke onto the minion, but eventually gets picked up. Charu drops low. Well, that Dragon's Rage was the perfect angle. Even so, the bot tower will fall in response to the top lane. They're sniffing around Baron. Doesn't look like they really want to go for this. Just angering it so it does do some damage to the team of Gbots. But they will be backing on up. As I said, the bot tower falls to Charu.
That equalizer though was just so strong, Pauls. It was placed in a position that did not allow Lee Sin to escape from that situation. Even with the beautiful Dragon's Rage, the final curtain was already coming down. But regardless, 1 minute 30 on Dragon. I honestly feel that Gbot desperately need to pick this one up because they've started to lose a bit of momentum these last 5 or so minutes. So Drake has got to be priority number 1 from their perspective.
Okay, so I'm looking at the team, and Lee Sin is doing the right move. He's realizing he's behind, and there's no way he can duel anyone, but what he can do is split push, and he can clear ways. He's picked up the Tiamat. He may have done that anyway, but it's a very smart pickup when you're behind, because you can clear waves, you can push towers, and you can still be useful, because you'll draw someone down into the lane you're pushing who is way more valuable than you. And it comes down to MYM to think, okay, who do we want to commit? Who is not worth it to have in a team fight? I think the answer right now would probably be Charu, and Charu still offers more to a team fight Lee Sin would.
What I would say about Charu though, and this is something I mentioned earlier, that smart from MeetYourMakers, they're allowing him to get most of the farm now. They're allowing him to catch up, needlessly large rod and Sheen. So could very well go for Lichbane first. What I'd expect with Seeker's Arm Guard, however, is a Zoni's Hourglass. That's going to negate a lot of damage if I can get my words out properly, and also allow him a lot more survivability and to be even slipperier. So I think it's the case right now that Gbot have to realize they've got the advantage and start to push for these objectives. That's why I'm saying that this Dragon is a must-have for them. If they lose Dragon, they've been on the recipient end the last 5 minutes of a bit of a battering overall.
Yeah, if they lose Dragon, and if they lose Dragon, as in the player, then they'll be in the worst position, and that's why we call it Drake. Because we don't get this difficulty, and meanwhile we do have Chum the Waters come across, doesn't quite connect, Makata in a bad position, followed from Vi. Meanwhile the equalizer and the crescendo comes across, picks up 1 kill, picks up 1 in return. Meanwhile Equinator actually blocks the shot from Ace in the Hole. The body block is so good, and in fact they do not pick up the kill from Tremdeck. Dragon gets caught though, Makler throws the Piltover across, again doesn't reclaim the kill. 1-for-0 trade. Gbots should be happy with this one. They still need to make sure they stay on top of the Dragon, or they could maneuver and go for the middle turret. In fact, they are still looking for this, poking coming from Neptuno, but with Vi still in the mid lane, they're trooping it down very quickly. We'll see if the second team fight heads on off. It's 4 versus 5, but some of them are so low HP, it's going to be very difficult. Vi doesn't have the ultimate, but now Makler jumps over the wall, followed from Neptuno as well. Makata low HP. Libic won't be able to offer too much without Crescendo. Now Darkfly comes across, Kuban back into the fight. Dragon doesn't get the combo off. In fact he does, but it's not enough to pick up the kill onto Makata. Neptuno has to be so careful. Flash from Makata, flash from Kuban, flash from Neptuno. Still keeps him out of the way, out of harm's way. Now the blue buff, they're looking to steal this one away. This is the most protracted engagement. Libic flashes up red, and finally they pick it on up.
Yes, but at the end of all of that action, all that frenzy, MeetYourMakers picked up the Dragon and they got a couple kills. So as I was saying before, Pulse, it's really important who picks up this next Dragon, and the answer is MeetYourMakers. A beautiful equalizer. I think it's really important that we kind of give a nod to Q1 there for that equalizer right up the ramp. Syra for the entirety was just trying her absolute best to escape and not die on top of the equalizer's damage, and very nearly did lose his life. It did Tremnek. So beautiful equalizer. They managed to pick up the Dragon, and now Charu has the Zoni's Hourglass. So that rough period at the start of the game has started to subside. It's going to be smoother sailing for him.
Yeah, for sure. Gbot right now have to be thinking, okay, well, we still have the slight advantage. We still have the advantage in terms of towers. We need to make sure this game doesn't slip away from us, because it so easily can against MYM. They will capitalize on every single mistake they make. What do they need to do from here? Dragon is still weak. However, Tremnek moving into the Baron pit. Reaction comes in from MYM. Had that not been warded, might have been in a good position to the point where Gbots might have been able to sneak that Baron. Not going to be the case now. with MYM positioning themselves around the area. Wards come out and now a battle of vision. I'm not sure if this is the right play though. I'm not sure whether Baron is what they need to be vying over.
Well, Dyrus has called Baron time and time again the noob magnet. It loses teams games basically.
Yeah,
that if you go exactly, if you go for an early Baron, there's more desperation or ambitious, and it backfires. You're suddenly in a really bad situation. Chum the Waters comes out, will miss Tremnek. And he can breathe a sigh of relief, or Jims actually is now in all kinds of trouble. There goes the Equalizer and the ace in the hole. Crescendo was also burnt, so that is 3 big ultimates, big power plays, and in fact make that 4, because the aforementioned Chum the Waters went out. So now Massacre is all that stands for MeetYourMakers. However, Gragas, out of position, is starting to come around from the back, taking the long route. In fact, maybe opting to push this creep wave instead, and put some pressure on this inhib tower. However, MeetYourMakers have already reacted to this potential threat, and are starting to back on off. Lots of ultimates burnt in the process, however, so now Gbot can breathe a sigh of relief. They may even think about Baron.
Yeah, they're looking towards it. Neptuno's down at the bot lane, and Kuban is still in the top jungle. But reduced vision, they'll still need Tremnek just to clear that one out. And in fact, they're just going to back on up. This is the right move from them right now. So I feel one of their biggest problems is that they haven't put very aggressive wards into their jungle. They have so much map control in the sense of taking down very deep turrets, and in most games you'd think, okay, because they push so far, it would be very easy for them to keep snowballing, keep up the momentum. But Gbot as a team, I do not see as a momentum-based team. We do see lots of those, but they're definitely not. They play it in a very different way. They're very much about picks and team fights and going for towers, but they're not really about control, which I feel will hurt them in the long run because they need those aggressive wards.
That is very true. I cannot add anything on top of that, Pulse. Completely agree. But now MeetYourMakers, even though they have been getting the upper hand these last 5-10 minutes now, they're still behind, and that's mainly down to the fact they are 5-2 towers behind. So that's 3,000 gold net profit in that case to Gbot right now. There goes the Hawk shot from the side. A flirtatious vault breaker from Eco getting in their face and then vault breaking out. And maybe trying to bait in a couple of these ultimates. However, Gragas does a lot of poke damage. Athene's and Holy Grail is going to be nice for him, plus the Drunken Rage that he's going to be drinking through and getting back some of that sustain. He can constantly spam away with the Qs, and honestly, if a big barrel roll is hitting you, it's going to hurt. It's going to do quite a significant chunk of damage and clear out this creep wave. So I feel it really comes down to who missteps first. Crescendo comes in, lands on both Jims, Equalizer afterwards, maybe a bit delayed, but look at the Dark Flight and the Stranglethorns as well. Rumble goes godlike. That was almost a pixel perfect engage. Look at Gragas' health. He is trying his best to escape from this one. Charu will be Zhonya's hourglassing up. Double kill coming in right now. Here comes the ace in the hole looking for another kill. That will be a double kill going in for Caitlyn. The triple overall for MeetYourMakers, and in the blink of an eye off of Crescendo, everything turns on its head. They're already making a move towards Baron here, and I feel with Caitlyn being pretty much full HP, with Libic on the sustain and Kuban being very high, they can pick up this Baron.
Oh man, supports just do not get enough respect, and after that Libic should definitely be getting all of it. Now with MYM aggressing onto the Baron, they should easily be able to take this. Vi is still on the board, she'll look for the steal. I don't think she was actually revealed by those minions, but she will be revealed by the wards that they have, and Caitlyn is the one to kind of push her back. Matcha trading off against Eco. Libic also putting in his assistant to Achara coming across. Eco does not make it across the wall. Even so, he was not able to pick up the Baron. It wasn't quite on the right HP. And don't worry, Charu, I did not see that fail over the wall. So 1-for-0 trade, but also the Baron, MYM, in a very dominating situation.
And this is precisely the reason, Pulse, I said before, when 4 ultimates were down for MeetYourMakers, everything barring Massacre, Gbot should have been aggressive. I thought they were going to look for a Baron and bait the Baron out and teamfight, because without these big ultimates, without the Crescendos, the Equalizers, and the Chum the Waters, MeetYourMakers have about 50% of their arsenal taken away from them. So that's why I thought that Gbot were going to capitalize on that momentary weakness and try and make plays. In doing so, and in not doing so, I should say, as the case may be, they pushed the mid lane, they got caught from Sona, who opened it up, a beautiful Equalizer and Dark Flight. So what we didn't say initially is in Champion Select that yes, you've got an equalizer and crescendo, but the Dark Flight is going to knock everybody in the air. It was that combination that crushed through the entirety of Gbot, and we're now in a position where this entire game has turned on its head. The tables have been turned, and now MeetYourMakers are the ones dictating the pace of the action.
Gbot's composition suffers from several things. The first is that the Lee Sin pick is very weak if it falls behind, which we saw in this game, and that hurts the composition as a whole. Their initiation is good, but there's very little to follow up. Apart from Jims, they're really lacking in damage, because no matter even if Lee Sin does have a very good early game, then he just doesn't offer the same sort of damage as, you know, someone like a Rumble. And also that they can't siege. They have awful sieging capability. Their characters are just not tending towards it. Maybe Zyra, but that's just the support, and that's it. A bit of poke from Gragas. They do not have very good siege, meaning that they can't take towers, and if they can't take towers, then they can't progress through the game. And they can't go for teamfight either, because they lack the damage, and MYM have outpicked them in that respect. So, overall, they've picked themselves into a corner.
They definitely have, and now they've got to be on the receiving end and stop the siege from MeetYourMakers with Baron, which of course is going to give them extra abilities all around, or extra attributes I should say, and also the regen that comes on top of that. So even though Gragas did explode in Cask away just to clear the creep wave and displace everybody and keep this tower alive a bit longer, it's not going to be enough to push them back, especially when you consider that Baron's going to be regenning and the sustain from Libic. Makat is taking a lot of damage from the side, however. Needs to be a bit careful, because still, even though Gbot are well and truly up against the wall right about now, they can bounce back. They can suddenly, out of nowhere, engage perfectly from an Ashe into Gragas, and suddenly everything's not looking so fine and dandy for MeetYourMakers. However, they've picked up the objective, and they're now starting to push themselves back.
Yeah, I agree. Gbot still have the potential to come back into the game. This is not what we were saying a couple of minutes ago, but now Mukata finds himself caught. Ash Arrow comes straight through the Bloodwell, however. No, Ace in the Hole comes across, doesn't land onto anyone really important. And now Mukasa jumping back over the wall. And I guess Ash just misjudged how long it would take for the Bloodwell to come into effect.
Yeah, that was nowhere near as smooth of MeetYourMakers there. Dark Flight went in, and then there was about 2 to 3 seconds after that the equalizer came down, and it wasn't quite as good. Now, Kubon's been landing some phenomenal equalizers throughout this game. That wasn't one of them. However, maybe it was a bit of a lapse in communication or concentration there, that they went in a bit too sporadically and they didn't really combine as that cohesive unit that we've mentioned before. But regardless, that is going to be equalizer down. Doesn't have a great deal of cooldown. Well, there you go, 65 seconds. So it's going to be back before they know it. And the Bloodwell is going to be a bit longer. However, it's the fact that they're trying to make plays here, Pulse. That is going to keep Gbot on their toes. It's very much a presence kind of thing. Keep in the back of your mind, if you get out of position, we will engage on you and we will kill you.
Yeah, I still feel that Gbots are suffering from a lack of wards. And this is kind of something you say a lot about like solo queue. It's like, please buy wards. It's not the support just in this game. But I still feel it's very relevant for Gbots. Like, they do have wards going down, but they just don't have enough. They didn't have enough when they were in a better position where they could go for aggressive wards, and they still don't have enough when they're in a defensive position. It's coming out, and yes, Livic has an Oracle, I'm well aware of that, but even so, they need more. They just don't have the vision, so they can't make plays.
One of Gbot's main strengths in this game is initiating and picking off stragglers. So what they could do, knowing that Livic has an Oracles, is place down some wards and wait for somebody to go out of position and clear them out, and then maybe pounce on them. So that's definitely a potential way for Gbot to go forward here. It could be a case that they're waiting to see the right opportunity. Baron has now ran out, so you got to say that overall it's not a terrible amount of stalling that Gbot have done. They just lost the one tower in mid. Could have been a whole lot worse. So in that sense, they can kind of hold their heads high and say we didn't do too bad there. But as you say, yeah, there is definitely a lack of ward coverage right now. Dragon's going to be up in 1 minute 10, Baron up in 1 minute 40. So if ever there's a time to get some wards down and prepare for those situations, it's right about now.
Their teamfight can potentially win. Zyra will make your team always very good at counter-initiating, because in such a large area it prevents anyone from staying in, or if they do, then they're just going to have to deal with that knock-up, and it's very, very key. And we have the initiate from the Eco, maybe going too deep, but the Ashe Arrow spreads through the entire team and hits Kaden. This is so good, but one drops immediately. Ashe is already taken down, Mukata dropping off, and now with Lee Sin landing a perfect Dragon's Rage. Hits 2, but will be picked up in the process. 0 and 2. MYM outplayed him in the team fight after such a good start. Waiting around the corner though, but Gragas fires out his barrel roll. Doesn't quite pick up a kill, but MYM flashing up red all across the board. Still looking for the siege though. Makler is still alive and healthy. And as a result of being Ash-arrowed at the start, this might be detrimental to them in the long run.
Yeah, staying there still, Body Slam comes in, but they realise a lot of these ultimates have already been popped off. Stranglethorns, Explosive Cask, in fact every ultimate on Gbot is down from that previous engage. So yes, they got Ash at the back, yes they stunned her, but they didn't kill her, and as soon as he was out of that stun, just going to rejoin the team fight and crush. If they'd engaged in the same way, say 5-10 minutes prior, so about the 25-minute mark, they would have won the team fight very handily. But I said this before, there's always the risk you run, is if you stall off the game, even though Charu was 1 and 5 at the beginning and was not having a very happy laning phase, 60 CS as I recall, around the 15-minute mark, you allow him to get farmed up, and he's going to start to get the items that will punish you. And that's where we're currently at. Zoni's Hourglass and a Lichbane is going to hurt. I don't care who you are, Fizz will hurt you. So we are at that point now where Chum the Waters on Stranglethorns, on also Equalizer, is going to be enough damage to pick up the majority of the opposition. I just do worry if Gbot have missed their opportunity to win this game.
Yeah, I definitely agree. But Gragas has 318 farms, so he's nearing full item build, and at least at full items he will be a very big threat. So I feel that most of the plays have to come from Gragas, as Tremnek is forced to use his flash. Another tool out of their arsenal. Eco goes for a quick engagement. Not sure if he necessarily wants this. Dragon out of position. Charu duking out the way of Baron, of Barrel Toss. Barrel roll, sorry. Ultimate comes across, lands onto the cellular, and the huge damage comes out, knocks him into Bloodspell. Meanwhile, Dragon is forced to back up, but now Econator is on the back line. Kubon is legendary. Charu coming back into the scene. Lands the Urchin Strike, follows it with Playful Trickster. Onto Neptuno, plops through the wall with the body roll. And, it was a decent engagement, Metas, but is it enough? One kill goes down, Mukata jumps back in, and Gragas, if he gets picked up, this could be so bad for him. Charu follows up though, Ignite comes down. Kubon looking to follow after. Again, does not pick up any kills. One kill onto Ash. MYM are in a decent position. They have to be very careful though, they're very low HP for this Baron. They're opening themselves up to a counter engagement from Gragas. His ultimate's off cooldown.
Yes, and they are coming in thick and fast right now. Neptuno is fairly low. Oh, and the Exploding Cast crushes Kubon. That's going to be the shutdown, the first death that Kubon has received in this game, 8 and 1. So a nice bit of damage output. That will mark the end of this Baron potential takedown for MeetYourMakers. I am a bit curious though. Why is it that Gbot are trying to engage on MeetYourMakers in these close claustrophobic environments? That's where MeetYourMakers, that's where their bread and butter is. That's where they're happy. Chum the Waters, you've got the Crescendo, the Equalizer, the Dark Flight as well from Atrox. They are all kind of tailor-made for these close environments. You're playing into their hands if you engage like that. They got absolutely destroyed again. They can't afford to keep doing this.
That's really where they excel, I completely agree, Metas. With MYM having the perfect jungle team fight, then Gbot just can't afford to go for it. But at the same time, by the same token, they're forcing them into going for that fight. Because what else can they do? They can't approach from any other angle if they want to stop Baron. Yes, they can go from the river, but then they've split themselves off from their base. Darklight comes up, Jims hits him with the Enchanted Crystal Arrow, and he can't quite follow up in time. But even then, not quite the person you want to try and pick the time.
Yeah, it was quite an ambitious Ash Arrow. In Mukate's credit, he reacted very well to Dark Flight away in the first place. Now flashing in Dark Flight again. Jim's completely isolated from the rest of the team, and is going to force the flash instantaneously. They want no part of this fight, and now they're going to reset. So, what is the damage done there? Well, it's a flash and an Ash Arrow, and also the Explosive Cask. Stranglethorns is off cooldown, so it is available, but MeetYourMakers are going to feel fairly strong right now, Pulse. They could go in for an engage.
Baron is still at both, so that's what both of these teams are fighting over. And MYM, they have such a good team fight. Charu connects to the minion with Urchin Strike, looking for his potential ultimate onto the right person. Econator is not the right person. Now with Mokata and the rest of his team looping in from behind, this could be very bad for Gbot if they don't react in time, juking into the bottom of the jungle. Again, no team fight just as of yet. Charu split from his team, but they have to make sure they don't move away from Baron too far. And now we could see a team fight opening up.
Yeah, they are walking straight into the Dragon's Den right about now, and Livic will be going in right with the crescendo, the equalizer as well. Here comes Chum the Waters, Stranglethorns knocking everybody up in the air. First blood in this encounter goes to Fizz. Can they rinse and repeat here? Dragon is soaking up a lot of damage. Darkflight again knocking 3 players up. Makla standing at the back lines, beautiful flash and 90 caliber net resetting this fight. Ace in the hole comes down, won't be enough to finish it outright, but here's Charu from the side. That is a 4-for-0 exchange, with Charu getting a triple kill. 1 for 5. Who would have thought that would turn into a 6-6 scoreline? And now Charu is a big player on this map. Question for Gragas: does he try and steal this away? Probably not likely. Explosive Cask is unavailable. That looks like a free Baron. Again, just walking into exactly where MeetYourMakers want. They trapped them perfectly.
Yeah, it's not really worth it from Neptuno's perspective. He has drawn Caitlyn away and also Rumble to stymie his push. But again, maybe it was worth the attempt, because now after losing the Baron, that might be the final nail in the coffin. MYM, even when behind in these teamfights, were still winning. Neptuno actually reveals his position, pops the Banshee's Veil from Makla. Should be able to get out of dodge with the body slam. But even so, they're not in good shape. Makla finds himself Neptuno. Not entirely what he's shooting for at the moment. Okay, just rolls on out of there. But even so, MYM just in such a good position.
They are, and I do feel a bit sorry for Gbot. They missed their chance, I feel, in this game. Maybe they will still bring it back. At the end of the day, you've got no towers at bot lane, barring the inhib tower, and also the same can be said for the mid lane as well. So if they do get an ace, they can still finish this game off. However, as I said previously, the last large portion of this game has been well and truly in MeetYourMakers' hands. That's going to be another objective, picking up the Drake for free. And with Baron buff, they are going to look to push a lane and push it very aggressively. Still, I go back to that play when Gbot knew 4 ultimates were down for MeetYourMakers. I really wish in hindsight they'd just gone for an all-out fight then.
Yeah, I fully agree. It was just, decision making is not quite there for Gbots, and it's a little, you want them to go for it. At every point in time you're like, oh, you need to go for it right now, but we have the vision of seeing all the summons, we have the vision of seeing everyone's items, and to us as spectators, something that's very obvious is not obvious to them in the heat of the moment, in all the action. So they can't necessarily read that when it's happening, but even so, I completely agree. You need that moment of clarity, especially from the shot caller, to just take a step back, take all of that in, and then go for that educated engage in a split second. It's a very difficult skill, but if you want to operate on the top tier of the teams, it's something that you need.
Yeah, absolutely, and you know, MeetYourMakers have just came off the back of playing in LCS against some of the best teams in Europe, and indeed could be said the world. So you got to say, you know, they are definitely practiced in the art of League of Legends at the top scale of play. Gbot do have some ex-LCS players within them, but it always comes down to that synergy, as you say, the clarity to make those decisions in those split-second time frames. Oh no, Trebnek, I don't know what you're doing, but you're going to end up dying, and Jims will actually Quicksilver Sash out of that one. Chum the Waters from Charu. How much burst damage is that going to be? The answer is unbelievable amounts. Zoni's Hourglass should be dying as soon as he comes down. Or will he? Urgent Strike away, and the playful trickster, but the flash, I believe that was the flash into Resonating Strike. Indeed it was from Lee Sin. However, Charu bought up enough time for the rest of his team to push down the inhib tower and the bottom inhibitor as well. They have such a good pushing side here, Pauls. You've got Mercator on Aatrox and also Caitlyn just smashing down these towers within a few seconds.
And Eco comes in with the initiate onto Levick, but he just didn't even have the damage to take down the support. He falls back. Now Garak is the point of contention. Ace in the hole comes across, hits Dragon in the face. Now following up onto Mercator. He does, however, have that passive. He's dropped into it. Another drop the tower as well. They can go for the re-initiation. Levick on the front lines. He's looking to slow them with the power cord. Moving on into the middle inhibitor. The bottom inhibitor has already fallen. And this is all from the back of Charu's magnificent engagement and big play in the mid lane. And as we said before, he was 1-5, and now he's one of their biggest playmakers.
And that's because they just stalled, Pulse, and they weren't punished for that. Gbot didn't have that killer instinct. They didn't go for the jugular, and that really was their downfall, because we're not exaggerating. They had the advantage in this game. Between 15 and 25 minutes, they were looking quite strong. They were looking like they could force down some towers. They got both mid towers down, both bot towers down, but they just failed to really have that killer conviction and that ruthless aggression that we talk about so often. This is the reason why teams like Copenhagen Wolves, teams like Heimerdinger's Colossi have crushed the EUS Challenger series, because when they get an advantage, they push it home hard.
It's worth mentioning though that we're 45 minutes into the game, and it's not like Gbots haven't done plays and put measures in place to make sure that they do hold on, and they always have the potential to come back into the game. But sometimes, while that's impressive, you just have to go that one step further to actually go for an engagement and actually bring it back. Because yes, they're playing conservatively, but there are opportunities and ways to go about bringing themselves into momentum. And momentum is so key in games at high level. If you get it and you just carry on rolling, and you're that type of team, no one can stop you, or almost no one can put a dent in your armor. So both of the objectives respawning in around 2 minutes time. Let's see if that is the time for Gbots to shine. I feel like this game will definitely carry on going at least until the next Baron. So that's really their last chance saloon.
Fully agree. If they can pull off something exceptional on Baron, maybe get an ace off the back of it, then they can still win this game. We've said before, they haven't got too far to travel to get into the heart of the base from MeetYourMakers, and we are in late game kind of territory now. 46.5 minutes. The death timers are going to be around the 60-second mark right now. So if you do get an ace, if you do get 3 or 4 players down, you can actually convert that into a victory. However, look at all the problems they're facing. There's so many things in their checklist to do, such as hold off the super minions at bot lane and mid lane, while simultaneously trying to make sure MeetYourMakers don't push in your third inhibitor. Then when Baron respawns, make sure they don't take that as well. There is so much that they have to multitask right now, Pulse, and I'm simply not sure they can pull it off.
Yeah, all without allowing their top turret to fall, because if the last turret falls, and then they take the inhibitor, there's almost no way they can go for Baron, because even if they do, they'll lose their base, and the super minions will win. It's like having an extra player on their team, but Kubo gets caught by the enchanted crystal arrow. This is the time to go for the initiative. Eco comes in, Dragonforge comes down, Zonya is down from Kubon, Livik is still off to the side, no attention paid to him, Mokata gets picked up. That's a 1-for-1 trade on both of the junglers, and they don't go one step further, but at least have delayed the push from MYM. This is the best they could have hoped for. Jim's moving on to Kubon, drops them into the Guardian Angel, double flash comes over the wall, Charo picks up the kill, 1-for-2 trade, and now Makala comes back into contention, Tremnek drops low, Isnahol comes across, Dragon with the body block, and now MYM go back to punishing this tower.
Yeah, that is going to be the tower looking at the third inhibitor. Makala was by and large full hit points the entirety of that team fight. A really strange kind of sporadic focus from Gbot. Charu was low, Kubon was low, but the AD carry wasn't. And that's just going to allow Makala to auto-attack his way to victory. Now the Nexus towers are falling thick and fast. That's one down. Now opting for the second one. Here come the super minions. 3 inhibs have fallen. It's only a matter of time, you have to feel. It's a heroic attempt from Gbot, but they're just delaying the inevitable. And if MeetYourMakers do opt to go back and to buy up some items, they're going to get a free Baron and come back stronger than ever. Or they may just go for the jugular now and finish it outright.
Yeah, we do have the equalizer coming across. Kremnek is so close to dropping. In fact, he bleeds out. Charu into the Zonyas. They could pick up the kill. Explosive Cats comes across, picks up 1. The Electro Harpoons pops the shield of Dragon, the spell shield of Banshee's Veil. But meanwhile, Gragas is trying his damnedest to protect his tower against all these super minions. We go for the engagement once again by Eco onto Makla, 3 versus 2. Ashara comes across, hits Livik in the backside, but Kubon into the Zonyas, now aggressing once again onto Eco. Neptuno comes into the scene, Makla's pushing them back, but their base is getting destroyed by super minions. Now with the bottom inhibitor respawning, they're fighting against the super minions as well as the players, and now the pressure is on. MYM don't have the recall, they just need to keep up the pressure. They're taking the bottom inhibitor, minions closing in from all around them. Gbot have such a difficult game to play in the next couple seconds.
They do, and I fear this is pretty much going to be all she wrote. Darkflight goes in, Jims gets knocked into the air, Blade of Torment as well. Basically, you just got Atrox really being a thorn in the side while the rest of his team finishes off the Nexus, and that will be the good game. The GG well played's coming out 2-0 victory in the end to Meet Your Makers. Neither game being a ruffle stomp though, neither game being over around the 20-minute mark. Game number 1 was around 40 minutes, this one around 50. So Gbot can hold their heads high and be very proud of what they've done, but still they will be knocked out. And therefore, we do get that bit of history being written up here, Pulse. It's going to be Meet Your Makers against Copenhagen Wolves tomorrow in our grand finals.